folks. How you going? Nice to be here. Thank you for putting this on. Thank you for putting this on. So you know who I am. There's no need for introductions. So yeah, reality check. It's been really good hearing what everyone said today. There's been some really, really good speakers. I'm really impressed with what you had to say. Raphael, I'd like to have you on the show to talk about that. And same with Jack, I want to have you on to talk about what you said. But you know, we've got to really look at what we're facing here, folks. So I always like to include this slide, reality check, because what we're dealing with is a group of career criminals. They're pedophiles. A group of pedophiles who's running the world, who all work together, all these governments all work together to manufacture wars and brainwash our children and spray our skies with poisons and fluoride our water and dumb us down and feed people rubbish. That's really what's going on. And the police, well, they kind of work for the system and not for us. And they're rolling all this stuff out to enslave us into their smart prison, which is really not going to be good for us at all. And this is the people who are doing it. This is their main goal, is depopulation. You know, so with everything we're doing, we've got to take all this into account. You know, we're being slowly exterminated by these people. It's been an ongoing process. It hasn't really been going on as long as what people think. You know, people think this system's been in place for thousands of years, but I really don't think it has. I think it's been in place for a few hundred years at most. Some of the research that I've been doing lately has indicated that this is actually quite a new system that's been introduced. One of the things they've done is they've changed our history. Anyone who's been listening to the show recently, I've been focusing on history a lot, because by removing our history, they remove our identity from us. And they create a sense of hopelessness in people whereby we think it's always been this way. But it hasn't always been this way at all. But this is what's rolling out, folks, 5G, and it's really important. This is unfortunately the situation that we're facing with most of the population that we're dealing with. And this is just all coming online. And this again is what we're dealing with as well. This is how most people are trained to think. And this is what most family situations are like these days. People don't really seem to talk to each other anymore. It's very difficult. I only put this slideshow together this morning and I can't see what's coming up next, so I'm trying to remember what I wanted to say. But yeah, this is the state of our society, folks. These are the people that we're dealing with and all the stuff that we're doing. So as much as we're being sort of kind to these people and trying to sort of politely wake them up, we've got to realise we're dealing with people who are heavily programmed, and that's just the way it is. This is what most people's life's all about. Of course, you can ask your children what's going on. They'll tell you because the education department tells them what's going on. That's why all the fences are there. The kids really know these days. And of course, if you really don't like the system, you can always play a game. And if you really don't like that, you can go to my magazine to make yourself feel better about yourself. And I really like to cater for the women in that department, just to make you all feel great. So this is what we're dealing with, folks. And when we try to deal with it, this is usually our approach. You know, we just petition these people and ask them if they would please be nicer slave traders and slave masters to us and give us nicer shackles, please. And this is our approach. It's not working, folks, because, and even when people do wake up, they get into the conspiratorial culture. Okay, they get into all this stuff, they start looking at all this stuff on YouTube, and they forget this. You know, they find some hero on YouTube that's going to save them. You know, some great truth guru who's going to come along with the master plan, and they forget this one small detail. That's all it takes to be a slave, is to wait for someone else to come and free you, and to believe that you are a slave, to believe that anyone has authority over you to begin with, because we just made this whole thing up. And if you really want to think about it, the whole legal system, you know, we constructed a legal system to prevent the causation of harm and to provide remedy when that harm is caused. And all the legal system does is cause harm. All government does is cause harm. Government is terrorism by default. You know, terrorism is defined by the English dictionary as violence or the threat of violence carried against civilians as a means of coercion, often for political reasons. And that's everything the government does. That's what the education system is, that's what everything is. Anything that forces you to do something under threat of punishment, this is terrorism. This isn't any way to learn. This isn't any way to teach our children how to learn things. You must do this, or get threatened to get the cane, or get detention, or whatever. And with what they're doing with the smart grid, they're taking it to the next level, because everybody's getting really addicted to the internet these days. And all they've got to do is threaten to lock you out of the system. And that's all the threat they need to keep people into compliance, and to coerce them into compliance. And this is psychological terrorism, even by getting people enslaved to this smart grid. This is a picture by a friend of mine called Adam Scott Miller, and it's called Wisdom's Dare. Because that's what I think life is. Life is wisdom's dare, and its daring is to be wise. And in every crisis that we face, there is huge opportunity. The Chinese word for crisis and opportunity are interchangeable. So we should look at that. There's a huge opportunity in all this. The system is being laid really, really bare now. And if we're correct about it, we got all these people that are going down these rabbit holes and give them a little bit of focus on this 5G. We might even wake them up to the chemtrails. What's going on there? Because it's all interrelated. You know, the chemtrails are positively charging the air. I think they're going to be used to carry the 5G signal everywhere. And the 5G system is a prison system. It's not a communication system, it's a prison system. You know, it's going to do so much damage to us. The radio waves, the frequencies it's going to put out. It's going to be like we're all living permanently inside an input scanner when 5G comes online. Not to mention the active denial capabilities of it. You can actually target individuals with 5G. You can target certain individuals for active denial, like that picture I had up before of the girl crouching over. The nanotech that's in people now from the chemtrails, because this is a multi-platform delivery system. They're doing so many things with it. You know, delivering heavy metals into the air, delivering heavy metals into us, into the soil, burying so they can track everybody. You know that old film Running Man with an Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think, the Governor Schwarzenegger, yeah. And they injected him in barium before he went off running so they could track him on the radar. Remember all that? That's what the barium's for, so they can track everyone. So they can track everyone on the X-band radar. Everyone's got an electromagnetic signature now, so they can find everybody. There's nowhere to hide. And they're doing it everywhere. And all the governments work together, folks. The Internet of Things is coming on everywhere, and that's what it's all about. It's a prison system. Lock humanity into this little cage where they can keep us exactly where they want. And it's everywhere. They want to keep humanity in a place, and that's where they do keep us, in this place where we're always just struggling, trying to find a way out, even trying to find a way out through legal means. And all the legal stuff that you're talking about, that Jack was talking about, and all the other legal methods that you're talking about as well, this is great stuff. We need to do it, but we're not really going to get remedy from it because everybody's compromised. If they weren't compromised, they wouldn't have that position. You know, the world's run by pedophiles. They run all these wars mainly to harvest organs, is what they do with most of the wars. And it's all contrived, and all the governments work together. They all work together. And that's the problem with government. That's why we don't need them. And like I said earlier, I don't think we had these people around for very long at all. I really don't. I think there was an event that happened maybe 400 or 500 years ago. Something that I've found in my travels in the last year that's really caused me to question history. And I spent most of my life looking at history. That's what got me on this path, was wondering how we got here, wondering how they built the pyramids and all this stuff. How was it all done? Why there's these monuments lying everywhere around the earth? And what I've found recently is the remnants of a mud flood that's gone across Europe within the last 500 years. And it appears that this has wiped out a whole layer of Europe, at least 12 feet in some countries. Sometimes 1 or 2 stories of buildings, entire stories, entire floors, and it's not in any history books. And it's about the time they changed the calendar. And really when you look at all the remnants of all the artifacts and all the remains of all the ancient civilizations all around the world, they've all got a common fingerprint. And it would appear that there was one culture that existed on this earth not too long ago. You know, a lot of the stuff that they're telling us happened thousands of years ago probably didn't. It probably happened hundreds of years ago. And they changed history when they changed the calendar to give us this sense of despair and to create the need for government. Now, if you look at things like the Vedas, the Vedic culture, that society appears to have existed all over the earth. We didn't have governments. We all looked after each other. We did things right. You know, we're very, very different to what we think we are. We really are. And, you know, some of the stuff that I've learned in the last year, and this as well, you know, does anyone think that the government is going to save us? All of this sort of stuff. Does anyone think this guy's really going to save us? He's following the same agenda. All these people work together, folks. Like I said, it's all the same agenda. But they've created this false history and created this whole narrative to create this threat which isn't real. You know, all these wars are contrived. There's no reason for anyone to be killing anybody. There's no reason for any country to be going to war with any other country. It's all governments facing off against each other and creating these threats and selling it to the people and then just depopulating the planet. That's what they're doing, it's depopulation. You know, that whole concept of 500 million, they want to lead the world into where there's only a population of 500 million. That's what they're doing with this whole smart system, and that's how they'll do it. And then they'll dumb everybody down and remove everybody of their health and get these little drones, 500 million drones just working for them, running their system. And this is what's going to be running it all, the whole 5G grid. And like I said, it's coming out everywhere. If you think that America and Russia are really enemies, you go to Russia, what do you see? 5G. Everywhere. Go to North Korea. What's happening in North Korea? 5G, smart grid. What's happening in Iran? 5G, smart grid. What's happening in all of the Middle East? 5G and the smart grid. What's happening all across Europe? 5G and the smart grid. Australia are leading the way. Peru, I can't even go and live in the jungle. 5G and the smart grid. It's coming online everywhere, folks. Cuba, big America, America's big enemy, traditional enemy. 5G and the smart grid. Coming in Cambodia, coming on in Africa, coming on everywhere. Lebanon. Look at this, and Israel, this is who invented it, of course, the 5G technology. So it's coming in everywhere, folks, and it's been presented as something wonderful, but really it's just this prison system. Now what they're doing with 5G is this, like I said, active denial. They can target people and they can limit people's movement. And with the chemtrails, everything's positively charged. They can pinpoint anybody anywhere. So there's not going to be any escape from the system, no matter where you are in the country. And you think about it, they're saying that they've got to put these posts every 400 metres to carry the millimetre wave because it's a really short wave. But yet they're saying the country regions are going to have 5G signal as well. So how's that going to happen? It's the chemtrails. That's what's being used as the carrier wave. Not to mention the fact that blocking out the sun and all the other things they're doing with it, it's also providing a carrier wave for this whole electromagnetic system that they're rolling out. It's also scaring off all the insects, all the bees, all the birds. Something I've had great success with, waking up people in England, and people in the UK have been talking to beekeepers and horticulturists, people who run plant nurseries. This is a really good input that you can go. This is a great way to get into people that wouldn't have a normally conspiratorial mindset. People who are beekeepers, talk to them about 5G, how it's going to disrupt the bees because they want to keep their flowers, they want to keep their honey. The little lady down the road likes growing her roses and they're not going to work properly in the 5G system, so they're getting concerned. And they'll go out to the local bridge tribe and they'll talk to people who don't have a conspiratorial mindset. There's a big movement happening in country regions, farmers, beekeepers, horticulturists. So that's a really good group of people to talk to. If they're not aware of this 5G information, they're not aware of the chemtrails, it's a good spot to start. Because that way you can approach these people and they will listen to this information and then they get a little bit down the rabbit hole and it starts opening up to other things. So it's a great starting point to go to. Because it's coming out everywhere, folks. And have you seen what's going on in China with social crediting? Well, I've been screaming out about this for months now, social crediting. People are just starting to pick up on it now. When I did a talk on this in Mexico in February, there were, was it 7.9 million people on China's credit blacklist. About a month ago, there were 11 million people on it, and about 2 weeks ago, I had another report there's 13 million people now on China's credit blacklist. So that's going from 7.9 to 30 million people since February. And on the credit blacklist, if you're caught doing something they don't like, you just get blacklisted, and suddenly you can't have access to certain services. I've got a little video here, I don't think we need audio for it. So this guy got blacklisted. He was a journalist who wrote an article about the government, and then went to buy an airline ticket a couple of weeks later and got told he wasn't qualified for the airline ticket. There's no appeal process. There's no one he can call, there's no one he can email, there's nothing he can do. He just can't buy an airline ticket. And he can't buy a ticket on a high-tier train. You can only buy local trains. So effectively, he can't leave the country. Can't buy a train ticket, can't buy an airline ticket. How do you get out of the country? This video, if I can get it to play, maybe it won't play on this. But this video shows, this is an intersection, and it shows that they're actually photographing people walking across the intersection. And if you jaywalk, they will grab your face off the image and they'll put it on the video display they've got on a local bus shelter to shame you to the rest of the population that you're an untrustworthy person. Because that's what they're basing it on, your trustworthiness. And once you're deemed untrustworthy, you're always untrustworthy. And it goes through the video to show you that untrustworthy people are people who are caught smoking in a non-smoking zone, people who are caught jaywalking, people who are caught doing the most ridiculous of little things suddenly they find that they're blacklisted and they can't buy certain things, they can't have access to certain services. Certain services such as buying plane tickets, buying rail tickets, or renting a house. Think about that one. You know, so if you say something the government doesn't like, suddenly your social credit points get limited and you are denied access to certain services. Once it all goes smart, then you'll have your clock radio listening to you, you'll have Alexa listening to you, and if you say something that the algorithm doesn't like, it'll just put a black mark against your name. And you'll get blacklisted by default. You won't even know it's happening until you go to buy something and you find you're not qualified for that service. And then if you get too far outside the system, in China they got these new facial recognition glasses. They picked someone out of the crowd a couple of weeks ago, 60,000 people at a rock concert, all looking at the stage, and you got this one guy out of the crowd, let him out with this facial recognition system they've got in China. These glasses, so the algorithm can simply say, well, Angel has just said something we don't like in her bedroom while she was talking to her husband, and she said something else again, her toaster heard her saying it at breakfast time. So now we've put 3 black marks against her name. She's now below the social credit point. Well, now we deem her to be a danger to society. So when she goes out shopping, there's a police officer out there who's been alerted to this person who's out and about to get his glasses on. There she is. And the algorithm has already determined what the punishment is according to what her social status is, so she goes into the smart prison. And that's how you deal with the centres. They just disappear. Simple. Because they're untrustworthy. And everyone wants them to disappear because they're untrustworthy. The Chinese actually like this. They think it's great. They think it's going to make a more trustworthy society. So that's where we're going, folks. That's the whole thing. That's where they're taking it. The whole internet has always been a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's what it's been about. Has anyone here a show that I did about a year ago called Giving Life to Lucifer? Anyone listen to that show? That show kind of explained what we've done with the internet, how we've given it all our power, and how it's now becoming a life force of its own. We're handing full autonomy over to it, and it's going to be making the decisions that control our lives, all based on algorithms, which are all based on an economic perspective of everybody. It sees everybody as an economic node, and it judges you according to your political correctness and your government approval rating. That's where it's going, folks. That's what it's always been. And it's leading into this new trade system that nobody's talking about either, One Belt, One Road, and the new Chinese trade system. This is why Trump's doing all this posturing and all this stuff with North Korea and all this stuff that's going on in China. He's pulling the United States away from the rest of the world. Make America great again. Bring all the industry here, get all these things happening again, which is good the way it should be in a normal country if we're going to have these sorts of countries, which we really don't need anyway. But anyway, if we're going to have it, sure you need the industry here, but the way he's doing it is to pull America away from Europe to create the excuse for the Europeans to adopt this new Chinese system which is rolling out, which will isolate the United States more. And when that happens, the United States will lose its position as a global reserve currency. That's what will happen. And it's all going to move over to crypto with this whole new One Belt, One Road system. I even told you about it. Remember this? The Economist magazine was just like 1986, 1988, 1986. And they tell you right there, 2018, get ready for a world currency. What year is it? 2018. It's all gone crypto. Even looks like Bitcoin, you know. And China has adopted a new cryptocurrency. It's going to be launching with this new trade system. So this is the way it's going to go. It'll be a gradual thing. It's going to be this big crash, and the United States will probably go last. It will maintain as the big, strong United States dollar, the global reserve currency. Everything will fall down around it, and it'll look like it's all good. But then everyone will realise the ship's sinking, and we've got to change over to this system. And then America's going to have to tighten its belt and bring everything back online, and they'll slowly introduce the Chinese work ethic, more regimented, more surveillance, more cameras, more to protect you against terrorism. It's a joke. And this is what we're dealing with, folks, trying to deal with this with people. So that's the bad news anyway. People are sitting there thinking the world's all great and all this shit's going on behind them. And they're just not looking at it, unfortunately. So that's what we're dealing with, and that's what they're doing. They're looking for help from the government all the time to fix these problems. You know, even when we deal with the chemtrail issue, we're getting all this stuff and we're taking it to government and saying, look, see. Well, most of them probably know, and if they don't know, then they're compromised anyway, otherwise they wouldn't be in a position of authority enough for you to be taking some papers to them. They've been caught out, they've been brownstone, they've been caught with a 14-year-old prostitute or a little boy or a little girl or something. That's why they're there in that office. And if we don't take that into account with what we're dealing with, then we're screwed to begin with. You know, we've got to realise that what government is a fiction. It's a multi-generational, multinational criminal cabal. It's a crime family. And we don't need them at all. We just don't. We don't need these people. All they do is manufacture war. And like I said, you know, if we've got a legal system that is there to prevent the causation of harm, and all government does is cause harm, well, why don't we ever call them out on it? Why don't we ever question their legislation? You know, question their validity to even put this legislation on us. And I always use Israel and Palestine as the key for them to demonstrate that there is no law. And like with that issue, it doesn't matter whether you support the Israeli side or the Palestinian side. What is the question here is law real? The law is stuff they write on paper. Well, the Geneva Convention is a piece of paper that says collective punishment is real. The fact that Gaza Strip exists, that's collective punishment. And that is supported by thousands of politicians all around the world who are all war criminals under their own law, regardless of which side you support. That's a breach of law. So what makes any of their law valid? How can you come and inflict your law on me when you're a war criminal under your own law? So let's discuss your validity to even sit in that chair to discuss whether you can inflict your legislation on me because your legislation is causing harm. Who the fuck do you think you are? It's as simple as that, sorry. But who do you think you are, you people? We never ask that question. You know, if law is real, then it applies to everybody. And if it doesn't apply to everybody, then there is no law. And we need to revert to natural law. And natural law says that people will face the consequences of their actions. And the consequences of your actions are that we are all really angry. And we're going to hold you accountable for your actions. And we need to say that. We need to call that out, folks. We really do. You know, one of the things that I've said ever since starting this radio show is that the biggest asset you've got is the people around you. And the people around you are your greatest asset. Our communities are our greatest asset. And if we stand up and call this out, we could change the world in a day. We really could. You know, we've got all the infrastructure we need to run all of our countries perfectly. We don't need government to run them. All government does is sit at the top, and it's racketeering. So you've got your transport system, your food system, your agricultural system, your this system, your that system. We're going to sit here and say, all you guys have got to do things our way, and if you don't, we're going to put you in a cage. That's all it is. You're going to do it our way, and we're going to give us a cut of everything you do. If you don't do it our way, we're going to get these guys to come and beat you up and put you in a cage. And that's all police does. It's terrorism. They'll kill you to keep you safe. They will. They'll push it that far. I mean, people may say, well, that's ridiculous. A police officer would never kill you because you're not wearing a seatbelt, but they will. You know, if you come up to them and they say, well, no, I just don't want to wear it, they'll pull you out of the car. They'll drag you. They'll fine you. They'll arrest you. They'll take you to jail. If you don't go along with them, they'll take it to the point that they will kill you. But really, they pulled you over to keep you safe because you're not wearing your seatbelt. What's that all about? How does that work? They'll kill you to keep you safe. You know, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and they're not serving society at all. But again, you know, when we... It's true. Well, you know, it's true. They don't really do the right thing, do they? But, you know, that's also the problem, because they're facing the same threat that we do, that we're facing. And by being confrontational with them all the time, we're reinforcing this attitude that the government tells them that the public are their enemies, you've got to be careful all the time. That's why everyone gets shot by the police all the time, because they've got the police so paranoid and scared of the public. And they think if some guy just, you know, puts his hand up too quickly, he must be pulling a gun out of his sleeve or something. So they just shoot him on the spot as soon as he moves too quickly. Guy goes for his license, they shoot him because he reached inside his coat after they asked him to get his license out. You know, one guy pulled his hand into his pocket the other day and got shot by the cops because he put his hand in his pocket. Just a guy walking down the street. I mean, ridiculous stuff like this because of their attitude towards these guys. So we've got to start waking these people up as well, because we need these people to do their jobs. Because they're not doing their jobs. They're not preventing the causation of harm. They're actually engaged in terrorism to support a government agenda, and half of them don't even know they're doing it. You know, a lot of people that join the police force because they think there's a lot of crimes on the streets and you need more police. You know, there's only a lot of crime on the streets because of all the laws they create, because every time you create a law, you create crime. That's the way it works. That's how you build a police state. If you want a police state, you just make lots and lots of laws. Oh my God, look at all the crime. You made it illegal to walk on the grass, you made it illegal to walk your dog on the beach, you made it illegal to do this on a Sunday and that on a Wednesday, and all this stuff which is just normal everyday activity. And then you come and say, oh my God, look at the crime figures for last year. We need more police. Everyone's going, where's all the crime? I'm not seeing it, but wow, look at the figures in the newspaper. More laws, more police, more crime. That's the way it works. With Obamacare, 80,000 new laws with Obamacare, that's 80,000 new crimes. Easy, that's how you get a police state, that's how they've done it. We don't need them, folks. But we've got to reach the police. We've got to find a way of reaching these people and letting them know the danger that they're under as well. That's if any of them are human. And we've got to not be scared of sticking our heads up as well. I mean, unfortunately, that's the mentality in people. That's the society we're dealing with. And anybody who does stick their head up gets just mowed down. And that's what they're doing with this whole social crediting system and Internet of Things as well. Because, you know, when you've got an Internet of Things and everything's digital, everything's got an IP chip, and all the cash is digital, you walk into a supermarket, you pick stuff up and you walk out, it doesn't matter how much money you've got in your bank if you're blacklisted. This is where cryptocurrencies fall down as well. It's something that the crypto crew didn't see when I was speaking to them in Acapulco. They have complete television of what they're doing. And a lot of the crypto stuff, it's a great idea under the current fiat system. It's a great way to free ourselves from the government. But when they're bringing in the IoT over the top and social crediting over the top, it doesn't matter how much money you got in your bank. You know, if they limited your purchasing power because of your political viewpoint, you can have $1 billion in the bank. Doesn't matter if you can't spend it anywhere. And money's fiction anyway, it only works for them. It was only ever in place to put us in a state of scarcity, you know. We're not really looking at things. I have no idea what I was going with this slideshow, so I'm just going through and changing pictures. So we don't ever look at things, you know. We're always waiting for someone else to come along with the fix, and we've got so much stuff in our head, we don't really know what's going on at all. And that's one of the problems as well, you know. Like I said, this is the big issue. But life is wisdom's there. And we need to start standing up and calling things out in everything that we do, asking why we have to do any of this stuff and realising that what we're dealing with here is people. You know, just people. Like I say on the radio show, it's our obedience to authority, our compliance to authority, which is just terrorism. A whole lot of it is terrorism. That's what they used to do all of this to us. It's just terrorism. And it's our compliance with this that causes it all. These people don't have any power over us, you know. Inside us is something incredible. You know, it really is. I mean, some of the research I've been doing lately, like I said, about how that changed history and what we're really capable of is absolutely incredible. You know, the world only exists the way it does now because we allow it to be that way. It's like a collective projection of what we think the world should be. But there's a whole other world that exists, you know, that could be here. We could change it into that anytime we want to. As soon as we put down our respect for authority and unite with the people around us. Like I said, you know, your neighbours, the people around you are your biggest asset. You know, but they're all scared because they're scared of you, they're scared of their government, they're scared of everything. People can see the system that's coming, but they're too scared to stand up and do anything about it. They can't see what's within them. It's been so lost and so cowed and so squashed. You know, but like I said, with great crisis comes great opportunity, and we're at a real turning point here. You know, everything's falling away, everything's been laid bare. And the whole system is laid bare. We know all the governments are working together now, they're all colluding. That's why they've ramped this system up so much, and so many people out there now can see it. Well, they know something's wrong anyway. You know, and that's why they're ramping it up more and more. And that's why they're rolling out this 5G so quickly, because they're scared. They're scared people are waking up. That's why they're spraying so much as well, because they're scared people are waking up. They really need to roll this out as quickly as they can. And they've given us all the tools we need legally to call them out completely, with everything that Raphael showed you, with everything that Jack said, with everything, the fact that they don't obey their own laws. None of it is. Even Tom Wheeler, the head of the FCC, he went out there and made that public speech and said, we won't wait for the standards. Well, thank you very much for making that legal distinction, Mr. Wheeler. You know, start taking action against these people. Not only live in this country, but he does, and you guys do. Start mailing this guy, start sending him liability notices, things like the Empower movement, what they're doing. That works as well. They stopped smart meters in Hawaii, did a great job there. And they've got a huge movement happening in New Mexico as well. New England, New Mexico, I travel too much. So yeah, they've got a great movement happening down there as well. So get involved and get motivated and get involved with the people around you, the people in your community. Because 5G affects everybody and it's a health issue. So people can identify with that because it's a health issue. And the beekeepers and all these sorts of people, they can identify with it as well because it's a real issue for them. It's a real issue for everybody. We've got nasty people doing nasty things. We really have. We've got to call our governments out and realise we don't need them. There's no reason for you to do any of this stuff that you do. When I'm 60 years old now, and I've never paid taxes, I've never filled out an electoral form, I've never voted, I've never participated in the system at all. I just don't have anything to do with it. I've got 3 documents, I've got a driver's license, I've got a passport, and I've got a registration for my car, and that's it. I have no mortgage, I have no debt, I have no loans, I have nothing. I have no electricity bills, I have none of that stuff because I've lived outside the system my whole life, I've just never participated. We don't need them, everybody can do it. And I speak out against them all the time. If I go to court, I walk out of the court. I just treat them like people all the time. I don't treat them like they're office, like the fancy dress that they're wearing. It's people in fancy dress, that's all they are. And you're you, you're you. I love having little conversations with them sometimes if you can do it with enough people around, But never take a cop on the side of the road by yourself. But when there's people around, you can really have fun with these guys. If you start talking to them literally and answering their questions literally and stuff, Because you're speaking English and they're speaking legalese. But that's how they trick you. You probably all know how the legalese works and all this stuff, a person and all these sorts of things, the word understand, all these sorts of things, how it all works. But simple questions like, what's your name? I say my name's Man. I base that on peer-reviewed anthropological information from the Anthropological Society. If you have a problem with it, take it up with an anthropologist, Stuff like that, What is the name that you ask for? Are you asking for my name, or are you asking for the person created by the agreement entered into between my parents and the government, which is the name the government has for me? It isn't my name. If you're asking me to claim that name as mine, you're asking me to commit fraud. Isn't that entrapment? Say that to a police officer when he asks you, he kind of steps back a little bit. You realise that you can think a little bit. I don't know whether it worked with the cops in the side of the road here. I wouldn't even do that with a cop on the side of the road, but if you can do that in front of a few people, it makes them think a little bit. It makes them question you a little bit, it makes them talk to you a little bit. And always record your conversations with them as well. All these sorts of things, We've got to try to get these people back onto our side a little bit, Ultimately, we created a police force to protect us. And they're turned into thugs for government and corporations, and we need them back on our side. They're really one of the biggest obstacles we face is the police force. Now we can talk about political corruption, we can talk about the fact that all the governments work together, but we've got these people on the street, which is it's like a brick wall of stupidity that exists between us and the workings behind it. Even if we try to get to politicians and try legal remedies, we've got to get through these guys to do it. We try to file charges against anything, even the stuff that you want to do, all these crimes that you're outlining and stuff. Where are you going to go and lodge it? You've got to go to the lodge it with a police officer and report the crime, and they just won't listen to you. So we've got to find a way of breaking the ice with these people if we're going to go down that pathway at all. And if we're not going to go down that pathway, and we won't get a remedy there anyway eventually, it'll take too long, we don't have time to do it. If we're not going to go down that pathway, then the only other way is for us to rediscover ourselves and step back into ourselves and start acting like real people again and realise that's what we're dealing with, just people. They've got no right to do any of this stuff. And a lot of the chemtrail planes and stuff, I don't even think all of them are jets. I think a lot of them are drones. I can't prove that, but I think a lot of them are drones. I wouldn't be surprised if NASA is heavily involved in the spraying as well. I certainly don't think they're sending tin cans up to the moon. I really don't think they're doing that. But I think that a lot of them are drones. But we can't keep doing this, folks. No more of this, no more of this, because this is what's happening while we're doing it. This is just marching out across the world. This whole smart grid's marching out. That's what they're bringing online. All of our countries, they're hooking us up to this grid, folks. And this is what we're taught to do. And they know about it. But that is a loaded term. Because what is resistance? Resistance creates the impression that this inevitable beast is coming and you must resist as long as you can. It's a loaded term. What about that? Response. We need to respond because we're under attack. There's a war going on. World War III started years ago. World War III is a war that the governments are waging against the people. And this is one of the tools they're using to do it. And we're not fighting back because we're not identifying the fact that this is a war. It's a soft war. But that document that got released, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, Quiet Weapons for Silent Wars, whatever it was. Well, that's what's going on, folks. So no more of this. 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 No more of this, folks. No more of this. Start speaking out. Everyone's got to start speaking out. It seems like, it's a little person against the storm. It seems really, really hard to get out there and there's this big leviathan. But it's not. It's just this big, massive confusion. And we keep looking for ways through the confusion, using their confusion to do it. But they created the whole legal system to be that way, to be what it is. They created the legal system really. We think it's there to provide us with remedy and all this sort of stuff, and that sounds really good. That sounds like what law is for. But really the legal system is there to protect them. Everything that's wrong with the world today is wrong with the world because it's legislated to be that way. Even the little things that go wrong that cause us to get irritable with each other and all this stuff, these little irritations we have in our society because things don't run properly, it's all legislated to be that way. And when you try to find a way through it, it's legislated to tie you up in red tape and all this stuff so you can file some charge against some politician and you might end up going to trial 10 years from now. You won't get any remedy then. It'll be a date that's put off for another 10 years. And by the time that happens, everybody's dead. It's like when people try to claim insurance from these corporations that have come and trash their environment. They tie them up and tie them up and tie them up until they're 75 years old when it happened to them when it was 20. And they give them a little payout just before they die and they get nothing. That's what it's all about. So they just tie something all this stuff. So realize that you're just dealing with people and things become a lot clearer. Whenever I'm dealing with anybody of authority, I never look at the uniform, I never call them by the title they want me to call them by. I ask them what their name is, and I call them by their first name. Everybody, even when I walk into a court, I call the judge by his first name. I don't call him Your Honour, any of that stuff. I'm going to court, I said, you're going to represent yourself? I said, no, I am myself. But I have to represent myself. Where are we going with this? I'm going to tell you a cardboard cloud of myself when I go in there. Oh, Your Honour, the Honourable Peter Smith, not Peter. Okay, all right, so I'll walk in there. Hey, Peter, I'm here regarding that matter. And I'll have a chat with him. If the prosecutor pops up, I'll say, excuse me, I don't know you, I don't recognise you, I'm talking to Peter. Stop interrupting. And we have a conversation and I walk out of the court. And it works really well. If you realise that you're a living man, you're living people. No one has authority over you. You don't have to do any of this stuff. And if you're religious, I don't know how many of you are. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. But even when you look at the Bible, if you look at the trial of Christ, even when he said to him, because he told us, they showed you right there. They said to him, are you the king of the Jews? And he said, do you say I am? He never answered. He never gave his name. He never did it. That's why Herod washed his hands and let the people do it. Because he wasn't going to step into that as well, because he knew how it works. They gave you a clue there. There's all these clues to all this stuff about how it works. The Wizard of Oz, the straw man. It's all there. The Wizard of Oz tells you how the whole system works. You ever looked at that movie through those eyes? It tells you how the whole system works right there. But this is the world that we've got. And we don't want that world, folks. There's a much better world we could have if we would simply pay attention to the world we've got and start dealing with it. And it's a whole nothing about this system makes sense. Even civilization doesn't make sense. How did we ever construct this to serve us? Because it doesn't serve us. It just serves the people. It serves the rulers. And we've got to do something for these guys, because that's what it's all about. These guys, the future. And it's up to us, because the kids that are coming through, it's wonderful to see this 12-year-old girl saying what she was saying. This is incredible. To see that in the youth. I almost came to tears during that speech. But that's what we need. We need the youth to stand up, because the kids that are starting school now, when they get to be 12, they're going to have no reference point for what it's like to be free at all. They're going to have no reference point for what it's like to be human. They'll be getting iPads and little things to click on as soon as they're in the cot. You have parents giving kids a an iPhone to play with in the stroller while they're in the supermarket just to keep the child happy. And it's dopamine addiction, instant dopamine addiction, instant gratification, disconnects you from everything. In the Philippines, you know, they've got these greater family units and all these kids there's never problems with families and stuff. They've noticed problems starting to develop now in these societies with the kids because the kids are getting mobile phones and they're texting each other rather than talking to each other. So they're not getting a real communication, so they're developing problems with each other. Because 90% of communication is non-verbal, and when it's not even verbal, it's just text, you don't even get the tone of voice. You don't even get the inflections of emotion in the voice, let alone the body language, or the look in the eye, or the look on the face, and all the other stuff that goes with communication. All you get is the words that you take at face value, and everybody takes it all too seriously. So suddenly all these kids start hating each other, and they've taken themselves way too seriously, and you've got these societies starting to break down, simply because of this testing culture. You've got to take all this stuff away from the kids, because like I said, you're going to have no reference point, folks. This slide always seems to find its way in there. I don't know why, but it does. I don't know how much time I've got. It's true. How much time have I got? Because I don't really prepare a half hour. I can go longer. How much? Where's the medicine?
Until the half hour?
If we wanted to have a talk.
I think it was 3:30.
What's the time now? 3:31. I can go a little bit more. Who wants to, let's do some Q&A. Who wants to ask a few questions? Anyone got some questions? There's one.
You've been around the world, you've traveled around the world. Have you found anybody who's hateful or wanted to be in war?
I don't find anybody who's hateful. Zero. I don't find anybody. When I go to Israel, I find all these people who want to live in peace and wish the Palestinians to stop hating. When I crawl through the tunnels and go to Gaza, I find all these kids who want to live in peace and wish Israelis to stop hating them. When I go to all these other countries, I don't find anybody who wants to kill anybody. It's governments. They all work together, and they all work together. Even in the Israeli-Palestinian situation, Hamas was created by Israel for the Palestinians to vote for. As soon as they voted for Hamas, they besieged it, they put a wall around it so they could use it as an excuse to terrorise both populations, so they can bring on this whole police state. Oh my God, the Arab terrorists. Every single country in the world has been locked down because of the terrible Arab terrorists. They're all just saying, why does everyone hate us? I don't know. It's a joke. The whole thing is a joke. It's all staged. The whole thing's staged. All these shootings are staged. All these events are false flag events. All of them. Every single one.
The next 1,000 people and ask them the question, do you want war? Every single one.
Nobody wants war. And when there's a clue, when the governments go to war, what do? They don't bomb the government buildings, they bomb all the people.
Yeah, exactly.
I said that on Press TV a couple of months ago when I asked him about the war. The presenter was kind of shocked. When I said if the United States and the Kremlin want to go to war with each other, then the White House should bomb the Kremlin and the Kremlin should bomb the White House and leave the rest of the people out of it.
Or arm wrestle up in the space station.
Yeah, just go and arm wrestle up in their space station.
Arm wrestle up there.
Yeah, that'll work. I reckon we get all the politicians in the world and give them all a hammer, put them all on Christmas Island, and they can have their war. That would be great.
How do you so successfully stay off the grid with just those 3 documents?
How do what?
You so successfully stay off the grid.
I don't know. I just never got on it. When I left school, I walked out of high school like halfway through my 3rd year of high school because I thought this is a joke. And I've been touring the world doing all sorts of stuff ever since, but I never signed on to the electoral roll. I just never got a real job. I was a musician my whole life. I never believed in ownership, so I never believed I could buy a house and actually own it because I saw people buying these things and they were tied to them and had to pay them off for the rest of their life and they could never leave. And I thought, well, actually the house owns you. You don't own the house. This is a weird scenario you've got happening here. It's a weird relationship where you're kind of locked to this spot, paying it off your whole life, bleeding, going, I own it. This is a weird thing. I think there's a reverse psychology going on there. So I just never got into the system. I woke up when I was 4 years old and I thought, I've been born into a madhouse. I just kind of stepped out. I became a musician. And it's even really weird how I even end up being here doing this. Because Max Igan is a non-deployment, it's a pseudonym. Max is my middle name. Igan is my son's middle name. This is all on my website. I've told people right from day one, Max Igan is not my middle name. So it's weird. So I've kind of created this scenario for no means of wanting to do it, whereby I've got all of the job in my real name that exists in the real world as a passport, a driver's license, and a vehicle registration. And I have no personality at all online, no existence at all online. And Max Igan has a major existence online but has no existence in the real world. And I'm able to travel on my real name passport and no one knows, it just worked out that way. I never planned it to be that way. It just worked out that way because I thought I'd write a book and put it up there. I didn't think anyone would read it. No, I put on my middle name and my son's middle name was on it to my son. And then when I put out that first film that I thought nobody would watch, I thought I'll use that name. And then suddenly I got created into this person and go, weird thing. We've got to stop. We've got to stop. It's been wonderful to have you all here, folks. I hope that made sense. I just kind of winged through that. But I hope it made sense. We can do something about this. It isn't all over. But we've got to get motivated. We've got to wake people up around us. Get motivated in the community. Start pointing out the health aspects to them. And start questioning authority in every single way that you can. Ask them why. You have to do anything they tell you to do. Ask them why. Because you don't have to do any of it. Ask them how they're even valid to give an order to you when they're in breach of their own law, if law exists at all. Thanks, folks.